Remember how Jamie Dimon a few months ago was like, well, we should just seize people's private property for, climate change policy. Remember that? Like, private property doesn't exist to Jamie Dimon. If his friends at Goldman Sachs, who basically designed all this like crap that the UN is backing and green finance and blue finance for Mother Earth and whatever, if those projects decide that they want your property, I guess they'll just turn off your money or whatever and take it. I mean, do you really want to give these guys total control? I don't. BRICS countries, Western countries, all on board for Agenda 2030. The people in charge of climate finance for the UN, Mike Bloomberg, the billionaire, and Mark Carney. I think your viewers know enough about Mark Carney to know why that's insane. And to think that Mark Carney and Jamie Dimon and Mike Bloomberg and Bill Gates and all of these guys just care so much about the planet and not about robbing you of all of your wealth, which is what they've spent their entire careers doing.
Investigative journalist Whitney Webb reveals a shocking fact in our exclusive interview on the active opposition of prominent figures like Elizabeth Warren, Jamie Dimon, Gary Genza, and other financial elites to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. However, why? It's not only about technology, it's also about their power over the money supply and the financial system. Webb dives further into her most recent research, illuminating the complex schemes that are being carried out under the guidance of the United Nations Agenda 2030 by individuals such as Jamie Dimon, Mike Bloomberg, and Mark Carney. Prepare yourself for a look into a future where the elimination of personal riches and private property raises worries. Watch with us to the very end of the video as Whitney Webb raises concerns about the real motivations of big financial organizations. Is their true goal to preserve the environment, or is there a hidden agenda to amass greater riches and power? Not only does Webb reveal the function of artificial intelligence, including ChatGPT, but he also investigates its possible weaponization for control. Watch this fascinating investigation into the hidden factors influencing our financial environment with eyes wide open. So don't forget to subscribe and like the video for more video like this. Let's hear what she has to say.
I mean, what we have right now is them literally tokenizing all their existing rackets to move it into this new, like, fourth industrial revolution paradigm. That's literally what is happening across the board, and people just don't recognize it, and they're cloaking it in all this stuff, like specifically with like SDGs and Agenda 2030. It's like, this will make a better world, and then you actually look at it and it's like, this is insane. Why are all bankers in charge of this? Oh man, I hate it so much. But I mean, you go back into the UN, the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, at the end of the 90s was like, yeah, so you know how we used to be at least viewed as the public sector, all the public sectors of the world all coming together to democratically vote on stuff. Well, now we've basically been taken over by corporations, and now the business of the businesses of the world is our business, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said,
I like to think it's
the UN's not your friend, guys.
No.
There's so much I could say. Anyway, I could literally go on for hours and be like, here's an example of why you should never trust the bankers, and still there's going to be that handful of people with the hashtag Jerome Powell is my pal and Jamie Dimon is my knight in shining armor, and sometimes you just can't reach people, dude, In order to create this space where they want to push people into this new system, there's going to be chaos and there's going to be instability. And so the comfort and convenience that keeps people asleep will be disrupted. What people do in that point in time is the most critical about this whole thing, about how it plays out. Seriously, that is the most important window. And again, that is why it's so important to be local. Because, okay, there's a big cyber tech on the financial system. The internet goes down for a couple of days. What are people going to do? They're going to go out in the street and look for answers, figure out what's going on. This is why it's important to know what's going on and couple that with having, connections in your local community so you can direct people about what needs to be done and what's happening at that point in time. It's very important. Well, also the internet, when it turns back on, isn't going to be like the internet now. at all.
No.
They're going to put AI in charge of like literally all content. Your ID is going to be tied to not just everything you post online, but everything you read and consume, every site you visit. And they plan to pass all of that through AI to determine if you're a threat to the system or not. This is all like predictive policing. All of this stuff is built into this system. Specifically in the US, the Biden administration already has the policy framework developed. They've had it since they first came into power in 2021.
According to Whitney Webb, a notable change in the financial environment is occurring, which she characterizes as the tokenization of current systems that are in line with the fourth industrial revolution. She draws attention to the fact that, although being portrayed as visions of a better society, international programs like Agenda 2030 and the SDGs are really controlled by bankers, raising questions about their genuine intentions. Webb also stresses the risks associated with blindly relying on financial institutions, particularly in light of the anticipated upheaval that will accompany the rollout of this new system. She emphasizes the critical role that local interaction plays during times of crisis, predicting internet interruptions and artificial intelligence, AI, taking over online content. Whitney Webb presents a concerning forecast on the internet of the future, stating that artificial intelligence, AI, would be monitoring all online behavior. The Biden administration has been working on this framework since 2021. Her message is very clear: pay attention to local news, as key turning points in this shift will impact our financial and digital future. However, that's not all. Listen to what she has to say on AI and bots.
Do you know how many bots the US government and specifically just like the military alone has to like shape narratives online on social media? And think about how ChatGPT has just like boosted that kind of stuff. The whole plan is to not have anyone know what's real or fake anymore. And AI is being used for that. It's like overtly admitted to in this book that Henry Kissinger and the former Google CEO Eric Schmidt wrote together. It's explicitly about that. And then having us be so dependent on AI technology, specifically generative AI, that we become cognitively diminished and we can't even write anymore. We can't communicate without AI, and then we can't perceive reality, what's real or not, without AI telling us. And that's this whole gambit here with like censorship going on right now, that AI is going to be in charge, not just of deciding what content you can see, but it's also going to be producing the bulk of the content. Humans won't be anymore. And that's already happening, guys. So the best way to deal with that is to spend a lot more time in the real world talking to real people, because like what you see on Twitter and all of this stuff is like more insane. It's going to be more insane than it is now. Right now it's more insane than it's ever been before, and that's only going to continue escalating because it's going to be nuts. And we have to focus on building other things, not focusing on all these distractions and psyops that are constantly going to be online. And another aspect of this, like remember in 2016 when like Hillary Clinton, they were all saying it was like 99% chance she was going to win based off of literal fake polling. They just like made it up to try and demoralize Trump voters and not have them go vote. That same tactic they do to people all the time to make us think that like we're alone and we're isolated and no one else sees this stuff, to demoralize us. And Facebook specifically experimented with trying to manipulate news feeds to make people feel that way. It's like a matter of record, as it was like 10 years ago. They still do that stuff all the time.
Totally.
So like if you're not looking at social media as like a war zone, you need to. Otherwise you are very susceptible to all of this stuff. Eric Schmidt, right, who basically runs like AI national security policy for the US too, and is like funding all this science and technology policy stuff. Basically, key officials in that of the Biden administration are being paid, their salaries are being paid by Eric Schmidt. It's like super illegal, and Politico reported on it and like nothing was done. They were like, well, I see you found out, and that is that. That guy has an insane amount of power. He was just on a podcast talking about what needs to be done about misinformation. And he was saying, we need to get everyone's ID tied to social media. And then when people post misinformation, report them to law enforcement. And so what has to be done is people have to divest from Silicon Valley and Wall Street as much as possible. Because basically, what I call the blob that basically runs the US, it's the national security state, it's Silicon Valley, and it's Wall Street, okay? It's harder to divest from the US government if you're living in the US than it is to divest from big tech and Wall Street. You can take your money out of JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and Citi. And you can stop using Google products, Microsoft products. You can not use OpenAI maybe, which is basically Microsoft, and all of this other stuff. Because they plan to do a lot of bad stuff with your data, like a lot of very bad things.
It's obvious that the struggle for dominance in the financial sector is intensifying as we close to the end of this fascinating adventure with Whitney Webb. Webb's disclosures have shown the reasons for the opposition to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies held by individuals like as Elizabeth Warren, Jamie Dimon, Gary Gensler, and others. She contends that their resistance stems from a strong desire to hold on to power over the existing currencies and the conventional financial system. Examining these financial elites' aspirations under the guidance of the UN Agenda 2030, Webb presents a frightening image of a future in which the foundations of personal wealth and private property would be threatened. This creates concerns about the real motivations of large financial institutions. Are they honestly for the common good, or is there a hidden agenda for gaining more riches and power? As we come to an end, one thing is still quite evident. Increased awareness is crucial. This goes beyond simply comprehending the here and now to include planning for potential significant changes in the financial landscape in the future. There is a strong argument for greater awareness, one that challenges us to be watchful in our comprehension of the nuances that may determine our economic fate. Until the next time, happy investing.